poem called Consciousness. How do you say consciousness in sign? So this is a poem called and it's for C.D. Wright and Dean Young and for the memory of Lucille Clifton. I also thought about Lucille looking across the hotel lobby, and also thinking about Wallace Stevens died when I was born in 1879. Died when I was a sophomore in high school, just before I went to the first prom. And after Denise Levertov died, I picked up her book, last book of poems to read, the poem that she wrote when Pound died, which is called The Old Ones Are Leaving Us. And I thought about Lucille when I thought about Denise's poem, and reading Denise's poem after she died. And so this poem is called Consciousness. First image is blue sky, nothing in it, and not understood as sky, a field of blue. The second image is auditory, the moan of a foghorn. We had been arguing about the nature of consciousness, or avoiding arguing, talking. Dean had read a book that said consciousness was like a knock-knock joke, some notion of an answering call having brought it into being, which was finally itself anticipating an answer from itself, echo of an echo of an echo. My mind went 7 places at once. One place was a line of ridge somewhere in the dry western landscape just after sundown. I saw a pair of coyotes appear suddenly on the ridge edge and come to a loping stop and sniff the air and look down toward a valley in the moonlight, tongues out in that way that looks to us like happiness, though it isn't necessarily. I suppose they were an idea of mammal consciousness come over the event horizon in some pure form. Hunter attention, life in the body attention. Stevie said human consciousness shows up in the record as symbolic behavior toward the dead. My mind also went to Whitman, not interested, he said, in the people who need to say that we all die and life is a suck in a cell and 2 + 2 is 4 and nothing left over. I think I respond with such quick hostility to anything that smells like reductionist materialism because it was my father's worldview. Bobby, he was sitting in a chair on the porch of the old house on D Street. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. I was drawing with crayons on the stairs across the street. The Haley's collie Butch was humping the McLaughlin's collie Amanda on the Mullins' front lawn, their coats shuddering like a wheat field in August. Those stairs, there were 5 of them. I took 3 in a leap coming home from school, and then 4, and one day 5, and have complicated feelings about the fact that it is one of the vivid pleasures of my life. When I came into the room where he was dying of cancer, my father gave me a look that was pure plea, and I felt a flaring of anger. What was I supposed to do? He was supposed to teach me how to die. And a few minutes later, when he was dead, I felt such a mix of love and anger and dismay and relief at the sudden peacefulness of his face, but I wanted to whack him on the head with his polished walnut walking stick, which was standing against the wall in the corner like a still mobile part of him. My mind also went to Paris. Steam on summer mornings rising off the streets. The municipal workers had watered down at the corner of Rue de l'École Médecin and Rue du Buitran. I suppose because that city is a product, among other things, of human consciousness, and whatever else it isn't a knock-knock joke. My grandmother used to say what a good baby I was, that they would put me in a crib on the roof of the house on Jackson Street in the sunlight and the smell of sea air from the Golden Gate, and that I never cried. They'd check to see if I was sleeping, and I wasn't. My eyes would be wide open. I seemed to be content to lie there looking at the sky. So So I think that first image of consciousness in my consciousness is not the memory of a visual perception, but the invention of the image of a visual perception, a field of pure blue that came into my head when my grandmother told me that story. Outside, the sound of summer construction starting up. From my window, I see a chicory come out of the dry grasses, pale gold in the early morning light, and raise little puffs of dust as it bounds across the road, going somewhere, going about its chicory business, which at this season must be mostly provision. It was years before I understood that my father was telling his young son that he hated the job he had to go to every day. It's hard to see what you're seeing with, to see what being is as an activity through the instrument of whatever it is we have being in. Consciousness that means nothing, Chesaw wrote, that loves itself, George Oppen wrote. My poor father